Hey, welcome to the Business in Real Life podcast. Brooke and I are here to help you guys start your business. Today, we're going to be talking about how much money do you need to start your business, where that money should go, and really how you should spend your first like $500 on your business.
Lance, if anyone knows about starting businesses, it's you. You've started quite a few. So tell me. So you've started Gravel, which we've talked about, and that's where I came into play. But you've also started a couple other businesses. So today I want to talk about how much money you had to put into those businesses to get started, because it's really daunting. You kind of feel like you need a ton of money, but tell me how you did it. Tell me where you got your start.
Depending on the business, obviously different dollar amounts, but I think just in general, it's been like in the $200 to $500 range for most businesses. But like for Gravel, we spent $0. Like we spent a couple bucks buying some toiletries to put in the product photos and stuff. So that was like $20 or something like that. But literally we found a manufacturer that would make us our samples for free. And so we didn't really need to, like, we didn't have to invest that money. Normally, I mean, that's super rare.
Yeah, I was going to say, how did you do that?
Well, we found a manufacturer through a friend. So a friend was already using them. They were already fairly successful. It was actually, honestly, the manufacturer that does, like, Peak Design, Nomadic. They do some stuff with Wandered, I believe. Anyway, some of the, like, the bigger backpack companies. And because we got an intro from some of those guys, they're like, oh, cool, this is a legitimate company. They've done legitimate stuff already, because I'd already started a bunch of businesses at that point. And so fortunately, because of that, they were able to, like, they were down just to hook us up with samples for free.
That's awesome.
And that, again, that's super rare. But if you can get an intro from your friend or something to a manufacturer, there's a lot of benefits from that a lot of times.
And the normal route that you've talked about in a lot of your TikToks and videos, is going to Alibaba and finding a manufacturer. But even their sample prices aren't outlandish. One might think some of them are,
totally.
But we've both looked at sourcing things, and it's definitely worth looking at Alibaba, because it's really not that expensive to get a sample.
A lot of times your sample cost is going to be like roughly 3 to 4 times your product cost. So if your product cost is going to be around $25, it probably will cost around $100 to sample that out. So like for Gravel, for instance, I went and pulled some of our recent numbers. For the mask sample, it's for the different cases and the mask, it was around $30 or something like that to make the sample for those. And then we usually we ordered like 8 of them or something like that. And so we're paying a few $100s, but for your very first product, where you're likely doing the photos yourself, you're likely doing a lot of the things yourself, you don't need like a bunch of different samples to send out to a bunch of people necessarily.
Totally.
Also, the toiletry bag, we're getting another variant of the toiletry bag made currently with some different materials and things like that. And that one, the product cost for that was around $50. So both of those are honestly a little bit cheaper than what samples normally would be. Like our product cost it's not, you can't divide that by 4 and get our product cost. It's probably closer to twice as expensive as our product cost, something like that, depending on the product, obviously. But it's because we've built relationships with these manufacturers. Right. Obviously, once you build the relationships, it's way easier to get cheaper pricing for everything across the board. So not exact science, but it gives you a good feel for, okay, how much is this product going to cost me to make? Okay, now I have the cost. I want to sample it. How much, you can expect roughly that. And the main reason that we say that is we don't want you to, we don't want everybody at home who's trying this out. We want a benchmark, really. We want okay, how much should this sample cost you? And are you getting screwed by paying 4x what they quoted you to actually make it in production or whatever?
Once you get this price from the manufacturer for a sample, is there room for negotiation, or do you take the first bid that you get? What do you do? What's your game plan?
So it depends on which manufacturer it is and like what I'm doing. So you negotiate it for a reason, right? You don't just come back and say, they're like, hey, it's $100. You don't just come back and say, I'll pay $70. Because then they're like, oh, well, why would we work with this guy? He's going to nickel and dime us. This guy, they're also like kind of vetting people hitting them up too. They don't want to work with somebody who's going to suck.
Totally.
And so it's this weird balance, but you can come back and say, hey, I'm on this tight budget. I would really appreciate if we could do something closer to $70. Is there any way we can do any kind of workarounds? Like, what can you do on our end so that we can get this sample made a little bit cheaper? You know, something like a way to do that versus like a hard negotiation always goes way better.
I just did that recently. Lance and I are working on something right now. So I've been talking to a manufacturer, the same one. It's a top secret project. You guys will see. But it was cool.
We'll tell you soon enough.
And we'll do a whole video about it. It's going to be awesome. But it was really cool because I was in between two manufacturers and I didn't pit their prices against each other, but I definitely said, I like you better. Can you come down at all? This person is offering this and it seems very similar quality. And they went down 3%. So that's better than nothing. So It's definitely worth, and like you said, forming those relationships is a really good idea because they have a lot of power to price their samples and their minimum order quantities however they want. So
I think the main thing to remember when going into samples is just as you're creating a value proposition to your customer, like this is why you should spend money on this product. There's also kind of this value proposition that you're pitching the manufacturer. Like, okay, this is why you should work with me. This is like, I'm going to bring X amount of sales per year.
Right.
I'm going to be a really easy customer to work with. I'm going to actually come visit your factory so I can see your operation. I'm going, create this value proposition for the manufacturer so that they're excited to work with you. If they're excited to work with you, they're going to have a lot more leeway on price, sampling, timelines, everything you're going to be able to kind of negotiate and have fun with. Every one of our manufacturers, not everyone, a good chunk of our manufacturers, especially the ones that I visit, I end up building really good relationships with. We joke around, we have fun. And thus I could be like, Ken, like, come on, dude. Like, we have to get this done. Like, and he's like, there's no way. I'm like, dude, please. Like, what? Like, let's figure out a way we can do that, And all of a sudden, it's like, they usually play like the disappointed uncle role of like, I'm sorry, Lance. And I'm like, no, like, we have to do this. So it's always a lot of fun. There's the Jasons and the Kens that are just good guys.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's awesome. That's kind of like when I worked at Disneyland, I had so much power and I was just a little like nobody. But when people were nice to me, I could just like walk them on a ride or get them a free corn dog because I worked there. But if someone's like, come on, I know that you could do something, I'd be like, I'm so sorry. There's nothing I can do. But for the people I could tell were really having a bad day or just like, oh, this is our one day at Disneyland and my daughter XYZ. I'm like, absolutely. Which ride do you want me to take you on? So it's a good benefit.
I'm taking my kids to Disney World in a couple days on the 11th we're going. So I need to get the inside scoop from you. Obviously it's Disney World, not Disneyland, but I'm sure that there's a lot of crossover there.
Totally. Anyway. That's fun.
We wanted to cover some of the other costs of starting a business. Obviously, sampling is a huge one, but also email services, web services, learning different skills that you need to create, like Photoshop, things like that. And so we wanted to jump in and chat more about that, the pricing for those kind of things, so you can get a general gist of like, okay, if I have $500 to start my business, where should that money be going and why? So we can jump into email services. Obviously, email marketing is incredible. For us, it brings in a lot of money for Gravel. It's kind of an old thing. So like email services have kind of been washed out, I feel. Like they're not as good as they used to be, but I still subscribe to a handful of people that bring a lot of value within email, and I'm pumped that I still get those emails. So it's still something that's alive and well, but if you do it right, it can be really incredible. But there's a lot of ways to do it wrong, I guess.
It's good for launching, first and foremost, to build an email list. You tell people when you actually launch. It's also good for retargeting. Someone comes once to your website and then you send them another email saying, hey, that really cool thing you bought? It would be really cool with this other cool thing that we have. So it's good for those and just keeping the customer involved in your brand so they want to support you. So it's huge. And you don't have to spend that much money to get started. There's MailChimp, which I think is $0 up until 500 subscribers or something like that. So
yeah, it's right around there. Obviously, all of these prices for all of these things, depending on when you're watching this, may change slightly, but
totally.
they should give you a good grasp on where it's at, you know.
Yeah. We currently use Klaviyo, which it's the Porsche of email services. They do a really good job, but it is really expensive. So I definitely recommend starting with MailChimp. I think Gravel even started with MailChimp, and then we went to Klaviyo.
Klaviyo is essentially MailChimp is made for everyone. So it's
right.
Emails for bloggers and your car dealership and, you know, every business. That's what MailChimp's for. Klaviyo specifically for e-commerce stores.
Yes.
And so that's why we pay a premium with Gravel to use it, is because the features in it, like even how it sets up abandoned cart emails, things like that, and
totally.
the different you can set up flows so that once somebody submits your email, they auto generate emails for like 10 emails. There's a lot of different things you can do within it that are specifically for e-commerce that you can kind of do in MailChimp, but it's just way easier in Klaviyo.
Totally. And Klaviyo integrates with Shopify, and I'm sure MailChimp does to some degree. Shopify, we'll talk about that next. But they're, like Lance said, they come with all these flows and templates. Most email services have some pretty awesome templates, but be sure when you use one of these to hop in right when you get it, and you change some of the verbiage, because the more and more I get emails, the more and more I can say, oh, they use Klaviyo and they didn't change any of the words from the flow, which is fine, but it's kind of not embarrassing, but I'm just like, oh, they didn't really care to brand this, and it just doesn't come off very authentic. So just put your own little flares. You don't have to do all of the copy over again, but like, I don't know, that's just a little tiny pet peeve of mine looking at other businesses where I'm just like, oh, they used the template and didn't change anything.
Totally.
But just something to think about. Make it your own, make it fun. You're starting a business about something you're passionate about, so be passionate about it.
And it's honestly, we have a lot of fun with it too. Like if you get our emails for Gravel, you're welcome to go sign up on graveltravel.com. There'll be a pop-up and stuff, but we change them so we're just not super serious all the time. Like I'm just super serious emails I hate getting. So we just try and have fun with it. We also do different scavenger hunts on our website that we send out through email. There's a lot of fun things that you can do to like get people interactive and like have fun. So
it's really cool. People, when they get their order confirmation, it says that they'll get it ASAP Rocky. I think that's one of my favorite lines that we use. Yeah, but that's their Klaviyo. And then one that I've heard a lot of influencers use, a lot of people that have courses, more people-centric brands use ConvertKit. I looked into it. It's pretty expensive. It doesn't make sense for e-commerce, but if you are a speaker, if you're writing a book, if you have courses, ConvertKit is really awesome for stuff like that. All right, let's move on to websites.
I'm a huge advocate of Shopify. Shopify is like my go-to whenever I build a business. I've been building on Shopify for like 8 years, maybe something like that. Maybe a little bit less, maybe 6 years. I should count. I should go back and look. But even Gravel's going on like 5 years on Shopify. And it's just gotten better and better and better over the years. There's a million plugins for it. It's honestly way cheap. I think it starts out at $19 a month, something like that, is like the entry level. It may have recently moved to $29 a month, but even then, it's like if you can't justify paying $29 a month to sell products, you probably shouldn't be in business.
Yeah, and it's so I actually bought stock in Shopify a while ago. And it just keeps going up because everyone loves it. They don't really have that many problems. I don't think we've ever had our site go down, or like our interface, maybe once or twice, but it's a dream to work with them. And it's really intuitive, user friendly. Even if you're not a web designer, they have a lot of templates that you can use that are really rad and look really professional. But then there are some more advanced ones that you can get to. But yeah, I agree. Shopify is the best of the best. And definitely worth justifying that cost.
And really, yeah, it's so cheap. There's other ones like Squarespace, Wix, things like that. I've used Squarespace for stuff that I'm not selling. So, maybe a
Same.
landing page I want to build.
Right.
And it's pretty cheap that way. They just don't seem to have as many integrations for e-commerce stuff as Shopify does. But there still are a lot of plugins. I have a lot of friends who use Squarespace, but it seems like my friends with larger companies are usually on Shopify, not on Squarespace.
Yeah, and it seems like, and I use Squarespace for personal stuff, like you said, not e-commerce, but it seems like anything Squarespace does, Shopify can do better. And Squarespace is just a little bit behind in e-commerce. They are trying, but you can tell at Shopify just really, they work with the people that make the apps. They make everything integrated, and most third parties, like we've talked about Attentive, which is our tech service. We just talked about Klaviyo, which is our email service. They all integrate so nicely with Shopify because Shopify is number one. So
totally,
it's really awesome in that way that it all works together pretty seamlessly. It's really nice. But Squarespace is awesome if you're not selling a product. I would just say that.
Well, because it's just so cheap. I think it's literally, don't they have a plan for like $9 a month or something like that for just a landing page?
I think so.
It's something like that.
I think I pay $16 a month. But I also use Google Suite. So there are other costs on top of everything we're talking about, Shopify, Squarespace, like processing fees, but everything is pretty much the same. It's like a 3 to 5% processing fee for Shopify and Squarespace that they take from your orders, which isn't a big deal in the long run because you get that trust. People know Shopify. They want to buy something from you if it's on Shopify because they've just bought something else with their Shopify login, and it's really easy to buy. It's just awesome. And the customer service is top notch. Like if we've ever had a problem, they fix it right away.
Did you ever build a website when you had to set up card processing and everything yourself? That it was like an external company?
Nope.
It honestly was such a joke. For a couple of years before Shopify was like, before I started using Shopify, I'd use WordPress. Also, don't use WordPress.
WordPress is the worst.
There's stuff like for blogging and stuff, it's fine. There's stuff called there's a plugin called WooCommerce that pretty much turns your Shopify or your WordPress into an e-commerce store, and it's a joke. Anyway, we used WooCommerce, and we had to do our own. I had to set up our own card processing through that, and so it was there was like, I don't know, 5 companies that I was just in a constant negotiation with for rates, and it was such a joke. So these sites are incredible because all of a sudden you don't have to deal with all that crap that you used to. Like that stuff sucked so bad.
And it's just automatic too. You don't have to do anything. That's the beauty of it. And then you have more time to run your business.
And it's a little bit more expensive. So card processing on Shopify right now, we're like right around 3% plus, I think 30 cents per transaction, something like that. Where if you did your own card processing, I would get like sub 2%, like 1.8% and stuff like that. So we'd save a little bit of money, but the reality is simplicity and not having to like constantly deal with them and whatever. I don't know, you're saving money for time. I'm sure that larger companies do still negotiate card processing terms,
right?
All of that stuff, but
your time is worth money though. So you can spend more time working on other things instead of, I have to recode the card processing thing. Like time is worth it for sure.
Totally.
And the last one I wanted to talk about was Etsy. If you have a handmade product, Etsy is so awesome. I have worked with businesses that have used Etsy. And if you have a handmade product, I tell my friends, start on Etsy, see how it goes. They have a marketplace, so people can find your stuff organically if you're keywording it correctly. It's really easy to start. You don't have to pay a website fee, but you do have those processing fees like we were just talking about with Shopify, which is like 5%. And then it's just 20 cents to list a listing. And I think you pay that every 6 months or something. So if you have a handmade product, try that and see how it goes. And then I tell people, once you're comfortable and running, head to Shopify. But Etsy is really cool. The business I worked for, we had a Shopify site and we had an Etsy site, and we kind of had two different audiences, but it was really good to have both and be able to sell through two different marketplaces. And you can also integrate Etsy through Shopify so that your orders just go straight to Shopify from Etsy. And it's also just a really seamless transition. So they do have some terms that if you use a manufacturer, you have to be transparent about it, because they do want to stay more of a handmade marketplace. But that's okay. You just say, this is who I work with, and it's chill. But
Totally.
be aware of those things if you're looking at Etsy.
Yeah, I would also I have a lot of friends who get stuck on Etsy.
Totally.
So they start posting on Etsy, and then they're like, now I'm paying all these fees, even though I'm doing a lot of money. I'd much rather be on my website now, but this is where all my customers find me now. So
Right.
I'd be really, really conscious of that as well. Like going into it, okay, I can't be fully dependent on Etsy for sales.
For sure.
I need to figure out my Instagram, my TikTok, my YouTube channel. I need to start running ads. I need to do a lot of these things that allow me to push to my Shopify as well, after I've proven that it works on Etsy. And then you can continue doing your Etsy, continue pushing your Etsy or whatever, because Etsy will drive traffic itself. But just be really careful to not get stuck there.
Right. Right.
Most of my friends who start seeing success feel very stuck. So just make sure to
Yeah.
build externally, not just on Etsy as well.
And you can set that goal like, okay, I'm going to push on Etsy for 2 months and then move to Shopify. I don't know. Look at Etsy's terms right now, but we used to include cards that had our website on it, and we would give them our actual external website, and it would be a code, 10% off your next order, only on our site. So then the repeat customer would go to our site, even though they first purchased on Etsy. You can do little things like that, or add them to your email list and push them over to your site as well. But I agree, set that goal, make sure you're putting as much effort into an external or more, because you can make more money. But it's a great launch pad.
Hey, I'd just like to ask you if you'd please subscribe. I realize it's an awkward thing, but it's free for you. It helps us out a ton. If you could just click that little button real quick, that would be so great. Anyway, back to the video. You're probably thinking, okay, how do I get photo, video, graphic design? How do I afford all that stuff? Because that stuff can get so expensive when you're launching. If you're launching and you don't know how to do that stuff, that's your main expense. That can easily, like a video can easily run you a couple $1,000s. Like even if you hire your cousin to do it, it's still going to cost $500. You know what I mean? Like videos take a lot of time. But the reality is you can do it all yourself, and I encourage you to do it all yourself. I think learning photo, video, graphic design, those things will save you so much money in the long run, and they're not nearly as difficult as you think that they are. So there's really, really awesome resources now. There's Skillshare. Obviously, there's YouTube, which is free. Skillshare is something like, what is it, $15 a month or something?
And they always have free trials all the time.
All over YouTube. Everybody's offering free trials.
Yeah, you've seen the ads.
Totally. And take a graphic design course. Take a product photography course. Take a product video course. And all within that month free trial or whatever. All of a sudden, you will save thousands of dollars by doing it yourself. And even if you're not an artistic person, even if you don't feel like you could do it, I promise you can do it. Like it's not nearly as hard, especially with these resources like Skillshare and like YouTube. There's so much great content. Literally on Skillshare, you can go learn how to take product photos from someone who does it for a living, you know?
Right.
It's like when I started, I literally went to Home Depot, and because I started working for this eyewear company. Excuse me. LaCroix is just a mistake during these. I just should not drink LaCroix during these.
Yeah,
just makes me burp so much. But I'm pretty addicted to LaCroix, so
it's on brand.
Yeah. So anyway, back to the story. When I first started taking product photos, I literally had no idea what I was doing. This was like 10 years ago, and YouTube just didn't have tutorials like they do now. And so I was like, I don't know what lights to buy, and I don't have a budget to buy lights. So I literally just went to Home Depot and I just bought like the yard lights, like the square ones that you just get to like brighten up your backyard. I got 3 of those, and then I just got a couple pieces of wood and a light stand on each side, I think, or maybe even a piece of wood on each side. And I built like this rack over top that had the light shining down onto my product. It wasn't diffused. It wasn't anything. It was probably super harsh. And then I went and got just a white piece of paper, like a big white roll from Hobby Lobby or something, and had that going, and then just took photos of these products and just literally trial and error figured it out. And the first products I did, I should try and find some. I could probably, if I find it, I'll put it on the screen right here.
Yes, that's awesome.
They were okay, but it was just me making it up. And that was fine. Honestly, to launch a company, making it up is totally fine. But you have these resources now, like Skillshare and YouTube, that you can literally go type it in. They'll tell you exactly what to do. There's probably, I would bet money that there's a video that says on YouTube that's titled Product Photography on a Budget, or Product Photography with No Budget. And it will teach you how to use natural light and how you should like set everything up within natural light to get great product photos with no equipment.
And
so
you just kind of have to do it. Like, it's going to look bad at first. You're not going to be very good the first time you do it. But I know it's cliche, but you need to fail fast and just try it. You might be awesome. You might get the shot the first time you try it. And you're going to go look back and laugh at your first product photography photos and see how much you've grown. But to the consumer, it's really not, they're not going to tell that much of a difference, So just do it and try, and go on YouTube, go on Skillshare. Some colleges even offer free classes. Like, you can take any Harvard class, I think, online.
Crazy.
Just auditing it. So I'm sure that they have some awesome resources. I personally just like YouTube because it's easy and free. And yeah, just try it. And then with ads and PR and marketing, stuff like that, a lot of services that you use, like Facebook and Google, have training courses. They have them right there for their service. So if you want to learn how to do Google Ads, there's Google Ads certification. If you want to learn how to advertise on Facebook, there's Facebook, I think it's called Blueprint. It's all free. And then you have a certification. So if you try to freelance or do something for someone else or get a job, you have these certifications that are free and these new skills, and you can build your business on pennies for all of that.
Totally. And honestly, so that's kind of the next thing that you covered is ads. It's like, okay, how much do you spend on ads? And really, so I'm totaling this up right now. As of right now, we have, let's see, your sample is $50, give or take. Our last samples were $50. You have Shopify, which was $29 a month. You have MailChimp, which is $0 a month. And then the Adobe Suite, which honestly, I think for Photoshop is $9 a month. It gives you like Photoshop and Lightroom. It's something like that. Anyway, so that literally equals $88 a month, which is crazy. And then, well, not even a month. That's if you got a sample a month. But it's, let's see, that would be $38 a month if you like to run your business month to month. Like, what? Everyone can afford that, right? And then obviously you get your first sample that helps you to start your business. You can pre-sell, you can launch on Kickstarter, you can do whatever. And then that remaining budget, so that $412 of your remaining $500 can go towards ads and testing ads, and because it's going to take some budget to find the ads that actually hit hard, that do well. That obviously that was counting that you go on YouTube instead of Skillshare, but if you can afford it, spend another $14 or whatever it is, $15 on Skillshare.
I think though that the new, like the latest promo for Skillshare is like 3 months free or something. They're always changing it, but you might be able to just binge any course that you want and take notes on it. Use the system. They have free trials for a reason, so could still be $0.
Yeah, so it's like all of a sudden you can learn how to launch your business. There's even courses on there like lessons and stuff on how to launch a business. Speaking of courses, we actually made one. It's a product course on everything from like, do you have an idea? Is that idea good? How do you find a manufacturer? And then we even have a course on launching a Kickstarter project. We've raised millions of dollars on Kickstarter. Anyway, I don't want to take up too much time. I just wanted to let you know, if you actually use business IRL during checkout at makersacademy.co, you'll get 20% off if you want to go buy that course. So anyway, back to the program.
Yeah, so that's what, $38 minus a sample. And if it's something that you truly think is a good idea, do it. Something else we didn't mention, social media, free. You do have ads for it, but I know that I get TikToks all the time that say, I hear TikTok can blow up my small business, and people are just liking and sharing. That's free marketing. And if you're an e-commerce store, then you can ship anywhere in the country, anywhere in the world. TikTok is free.
Totally.
Instagram is free. Pinterest, 80% of people that go on Pinterest are ready to purchase. So If your audience is on Pinterest, free. They do have paid ads, but social media also free. So we don't even have to add that to the tally. But
if you learn photo, video, graphic design, all of a sudden those TikToks, those Instagrams, those YouTube videos, those Pinterest boards, all are like, you can learn color theory, you can learn branding, all within YouTube, all within Skillshare, and then all of a sudden your social media for free, you're doing it, and it looks like you're a legitimate brand. It looks like you've been around for a long time and you know what you're doing. But honestly, here's a quick story to wrap it up. I was talking earlier about how we had this manufacturer in Vietnam who a lot of these other big brands use. And Peak Design, we're friends with them here and there. Like, we're friends with them, and we see them here or there, like at trade shows. Or this time we actually ran into them in Vietnam, and they were going into the factory, and they had just launched a bag like the week before or something like that. They were there to like kind of finalize some things on that bag, I believe. Anyway, so we're like, dudes, that bag you just launched is so rad. Like, I'm so pumped on it. And they're like, oh, thanks. We're just making it up. And they're literally like, I don't know their exact numbers, obviously, but they're like a $80 million a year company. Like, they're doing major, major revenue. And yet they were like, oh, yeah, we're just making it up, you know? And so it's like,
that's awesome.
Wow, incredible. Company like that, just making it up. So overall, the takeaway is, to start a business doesn't have to be expensive. To start a business, you don't have to have all the answers. We're all just making it up. We're just doing what we can.
Truly just making it up. It's
and honestly,
so true.
Screwing up a bunch. I have a lot of failed businesses, and that's fine. Like, that's great. Like, I failed like 10 times before we launched Gravel, and all those lessons finally lined up with timing and everything else. And now we have a fairly successful company, you know?
You got to fail fast. You just got to do it, and one will stick. Lance is a really good, I don't know, he's like the poster child for this, because he's a serial entrepreneur, and he just doesn't care about failing. And I think that's such a cool quality that I try to have, because I'm like, oh no, what if it doesn't work out? I don't know, you just got to try.
Totally.
It's like throwing spaghetti at the wall. You got to see if it'll stick.
100%. I do that I always throw spaghetti against the wall as much as I can. Rad, well, thanks for joining us today. Again, this is Business in Real Life. We're just trying to help you guys start your business. So let us know any questions you have below. We'd love to do videos on the stuff that you're interested about. And we launch these every Tuesday. So go check them out, and we'll talk to you guys soon.